This is Bannockburn, where 700 years ago the Scots fought a defining battle against the English.
There's only one little problem, and that is that we all have to do it at the same time. Shadow of the mountain, everywhere we go, we're in the shadow of the mountain. Yes, that's true.
Legendary singer-songwriter Dougie MacLean has the crowd in the palm of his hand.
New day and everything's changed. All my plans
That includes me. Scots are a sentimental lot, and when you become an expat, arguably even more so.
We're in the shadow of the mountain. Don't you know? The shadow of the mountain, everywhere we go.
It's very special. It's kind of like it was a real pivotal point in our kind of Scottish psyche. You know, I think if the Scots hadn't won Bannockburn, there would be no Scotland. It's that kind of, it's as black and white as that.
I couldn't not sing this wee song here on this very special day. In this very special place.
Dougie MacLean's ballad Caledonia has long been something of an unofficial Scottish anthem. It was big in the 1970s. Now, in a Scotland daring to dream of going it alone, it's rousing patriotic spirits again.
I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away.
You don't often get a chance to sing a song like that in a place like this, on an occasion like this. And I have noticed too this year that when the people sing it, they sing it with a different kind of, there's a different vibe going on when they join in with me.
So far away today.
It's a kind of hope kind of thing, or some element of their singing has changed this year, which is it's lovely, and I can feel it when I'm actually on the stage.
Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, you know that it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Thank you very much.
Over the last 5 or 6 years, I think, or maybe 10 years, Scottish self-confidence has kind of grown, you know, and we're slowly getting away from the caricature that internationally everybody thinks of the Scot, you know, with the hairy legs and the wiggly stick and mean and, you know, a funny hat with a feather in it. Scotland's a very progressive country these days.
I'm on my way from misery to happiness to thee.
Scotland's in the grip of a passionate national argument. Yes or no to independence. The proclaimers are yes, so is Annie Lennox. And Sean Connery has been saying it for ages.
It's clearly a time for change. All of my life experience tells me that an independent Scotland will be successful.
But no has star power too. Billy Connolly, Ewan McGregor, J.K. Rowling, and she gave a couple of $1 million to the No campaign.
A number of expat Scots will understand it perfectly well. For generations we've been told we're too wee and too small and have to hold the big hand of cousin England, otherwise we go down the tubes. Now we're overcoming this too wee, too small. People are beginning to realise that they're not too wee and too small, that they're very capable.
You're not going to lose anything by remaining British, because the Scots have always had that phenomenal individualistic, quirky, adventurous, almost confrontational character that regardless of where they go, you know, no one's going to eradicate that.
Welcome to Scotland. Welcome to Scotland.
Of course, this is the big show in town right now, and Scottish athletes competing here in Glasgow represent their own nation, not the United Kingdom. Any victory here is sweet, and one against the English is always particularly savoured. But many Scots have their eye on a longer game, with a grand final in September, voting yes or no to independence.
Welcome to
In London, they've belatedly realised the danger.
This is an issue of the heart, and it would break my heart to see our United Kingdom break apart.
As referendum day approaches, the British Prime Minister David Cameron has been making more frequent trips north of the border to appeal to Scots to remain part of the UK.
I think we should, for all time, stop this argument that you cannot be patriotic and a proud Scot if you want to stay in the United Kingdom. I think it is nonsense.
The polls are with him, but the gap between the yes and no vote is narrowing.
This is a campaign which I would describe as the greatest civic movement Scotland has ever seen. There are literally thousands, I don't exaggerate, literally thousands of people working in every part of Scotland who have created, yes, local campaigns simply on their own. It's all happened spontaneously.
Both sides are now trying to persuade the big number of undecided voters. House to house, they're also trying to cajole those who aren't registered to vote to get on the electoral roll and have a say. Glasgow University is a splendid place with an impressive history. The economist Adam Smith studied here, so did John Logie Baird, the man who invented the technology delivering this story. When I was a student, Scotland was a very different place. Its industrial heartland had been gutted, and many blamed faraway, uncaring English politicians. It's been a very long time since I graduated from this university, but I've always felt very at home here and in this part of Glasgow, the West End of Glasgow. Many good memories for me here. But I didn't graduate with a sense that the world was at my feet. I had an arts degree, unemployment was high, and there just didn't seem to be many opportunities. I headed overseas, and in some ways I never really came back. If you had asked me then, at this point when I was graduating, did I want an independent Scotland, I would have said yes without hesitation. These days, though, the political landscape is more complex. For a start, Scotland has its own parliament, with powers over health and education. Unlike in England, these graduates have enjoyed free university courses, and they have good prospects. But that hasn't necessarily swayed them to vote yes in September.
I'm voting no. I think the union is stronger together in every possible way.
You've just graduated, you're going to begin a career.
And I'll probably want to move down south as well, so I would like to still be part of Scotland if I do move for work.
Are you Scottish first and British second, or how do you say it?
British. I would say I'm British, yeah.
Head across town from Glasgow University and you enter into a different world. This is Easter House, one of the poorest suburbs, where life expectancy is a staggering 15 years lower than in the city's wealthier suburbs. 16-year-olds will have their say on secession. 17-year-old Callum says he'll be voting no. I'd like to vote in September.
Aye.
I'm taking it it's a no vote.
No, it's a night. No, obviously it's a no vote. Got the vote no stickers and stuff. Proud of this.
Why not?
I don't know.
And did it take you a long time to decide to vote no?
No, took me 5 minutes.
Do you feel Scottish?
Aye.
British?
Aye. Feel a bit of both, you know.
Oh, definitely voting yes. I mean, independence for this country is long overdue. I mean, look what's happened to other countries like Norway and things, you know. If we get independence and we can start building from the centre and outwards, England, have too much say over what goes on here.
Supporters of a yes vote think it's in districts like Easterhouse where the referendum will be won or lost.
We, the Scottish working class, have got to have the arrogance, and I repeat it, the arrogance to tell them that we are far, far better than they say we are.
Jim Sillars is a veteran campaigner for independence, a former deputy leader of the Scottish Nationalists.
If we have voted no, we've voted ourselves back into a system, low wages, endemic poverty, high unemployment. No chance for our children. But if we voted yes in those 15 hours, at 1 minute past 10, all of us in the working class can stand up and say to each other, our time has finally come. Last year, 22,000 children in Scotland were fed by food banks. That's a disgrace. You know, I'm not a proud Scot, let me tell you. How can you possibly be proud of a nation like that? One of the big investors that are involved in Scotland are the payday loan companies, charging 4,000% interest rates. Now, they're not lending to me. They're feasting on the poorest people in the country. On the public service.
For yes campaigners like Jim Sillars, it's a no-brainer. He says Scotland has the political capacity to run its own show and the resources to power it.
We're the only nation, developed nation, which discovered oil and our people got poorer.
Oil and gas are the lifeblood of the Scottish economy. More than 40 billion barrels of oil have been extracted from the North Sea so far. The Nationalists argue an independent Scotland could legitimately lay claim to about 90% of whatever's left.
We're rich in oil. Huge, huge resources of oil. And there's still 21 billion barrels of oil in the North Sea. 40 million tonnes of oil pass through Scotland at the present time. Now, we can't absorb 40 million tonnes on our own, but we can sell and we can benefit from it.
Give me some real shape, Beth.
Scotland has a prosperous business sector. Unsurprisingly, many of its representatives don't see a case for change.
Paul, so we see more of your look.
Fashion publicist Tessa Hartman says her business would suffer if Scotland goes it alone.
I think in terms of fashion for Scotland, if you like, we have punched above our weight to try and identify a strength within the world of fashion. But the reality is, in this industry sector and retail, if you think about it, that the epicentre of kind of British fashion is in London. There's nothing wrong with that. We're part of Britain. It's there to be exploited. It's a cosmopolitan city. It's international. We need that platform to kind of increase the stability of our fashion industry because we don't have the resources in Scotland to do it.
The debate is sensitive, and some who favour a no vote are staying silent. Some who've spoken out have been targeted by web trolls, dubbed cyber nats. Tessa Hartman hasn't been spared.
I would, commentate on various news programmes, just talking about industry, and instantly you will get, vile, quite rude messages on Twitter, very offensive. I mean, it's water off a duck's back to me now.
Do they engage with your position, or are they getting just personal?
Both, everything. There's vulgarity in there, there's swearing in there. It's quite infantile, to be honest with you. All the old stereotype cliches about being blonde, about being a woman, about not knowing anything. It's just, it's kindergarten playground tactics.
The No campaign has been dubbed Project Fear. Scots have been warned that they could be worse off by as much as $3,000 a year because a new government would have to raise taxes. Also, they'll have to pay off a fair slice of the UK's national debt, now a staggering $2.5 trillion. And the No campaign warns an independent Scotland wouldn't be able to continue to use the pound as its currency.
And what currency will you be using, huh? The pound? The pound?
If we let you.
And what about the EU? Surely every other country in the world, when Scotland got up to speak, would go like this, la 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 la, we can't hear you. You know why? Because we don't like your shoes or something, so piss off.
Writer and performer Alan Bissett's road testing his latest show in historic Falkirk, his hometown. It's a satire on the independence debate.
And what about defence? Surely you'd be a target for every two-bit terrorist bandit in the world without the strength of the great British Secret Service to protect you. Why? You could be invaded by Ireland.
Is it almost like a divorce that Scotland and the rest of the UK are going through?
Yeah, I think that's a workable metaphor, a divorce. And if you think about it, Scotland is the wife who's been taken for granted. And increasingly Scotland's feeling, do you know what, I might be better on my own. But what's happened is, that husband says, you're fat, you're ugly, nobody would fancy you. See, what would you do without me? How would you make money without me?
How much of it is driven by a residual anti-English sentiment?
Almost none of it is driven by anti-English sentiment. I think that's a caricature which our opposition like to present, because it seems like the most obvious thing. Oh, where's this coming from? It must be because they hate the English. Yeah, we've all seen Braveheart, that must be what it
is. So what's it like bringing the message home to Falkirk?
Speaking of Braveheart, and it was only a matter of time before we did, it was at Falkirk that William Wallace's men were defeated by the English army.
So this is to the Battle of Falkirk in 1298.
Yeah.
Who won that one, do you think?
Well, it wasn't us.
You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are. What will you do with that freedom? Will you fight?
It would be another 16 years before the Scots had their revenge.
Amongst the battle, there's chaos and a rout. And it came to a bitter hand-to-hand fighting.
Which brings us back to Bannockburn and the spectacle of men dressing up to reenact a version of history.
It was in the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314 that Robert the Bruce and his vastly outnumbered army defeated the English and sent them packing. Bannockburn is a source of deep national pride for the Scots. Now its 700th anniversary is being marked just weeks before the Scots decide whether to reject the English once again.
For Robert the Bruce, King of Scots, and Edward II, King of England.
How does it feel to defeat the English?
Absolutely fantastic.
Do you think it is a romantic notion, this idea of an independent Scotland?
I think it's very romantic. You know, I think if we're all true to ourselves, the idea of an independent Scotland and, you know, harking back to Braveheart, you know, who doesn't love that idea? But, you know, I love many things, but I know they are but fantasy.
I wanted to get out of the cities to the remote fringes of Scotland, places defined by self-reliance.
You can't really go much further north in Scotland than this. This is the top end of the Shetland mainland. A couple of more islands out that way and then that's it. Shetland is in many ways as geographically and historically close to Scandinavia as it is to Edinburgh or London. And sitting here, those cities feel a million miles away. But the debate over independence for Scotland or not is alive and well here.
I think that having democracy nearer to the people is a good thing. I think when it becomes too distant, then people stop feeling part of the machinery of government.
Ronnie Eunson is a born and bred Shetlander, a self-made man farming organic beef and lamb on land he scraped and saved to buy.
So you've got how many sheep?
Oh, 700.
700?
Yeah.
And they're all
Shetland.
Shetland sheep?
Native Shetland, yeah.
He's been thinking long and hard about September's referendum on independence.
I'm 56 now, and in my lifetime I think I've become more and more dissatisfied and disappointed by national politics as defined by Westminster. I feel that there's been too much wasted in terms of human resources and natural resources. I resent the fact that there's such huge disparities and the inequalities of wealth in the UK. I don't think it's a very healthy society in the way that it's developing.
People sometimes say Shetlanders feel closer to their Scandinavian heritage than to London or Edinburgh. How do you see it?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that, and if you spend any time in Scandinavian countries you understand why they are a more comfortable atmosphere in them.
How do you do? Barbara Miller.
Hello.
Hello.
Jim.
Thanks for meeting us. It's a beautiful spot.
It's nice today, yes, sun is shining.
And I believe this is yours. You're the owner of this island.
That's part of the farm, yes.
Jim Budgie's great-great-grandfather managed this land for a wealthy landowner, a laird. Jim's father would later buy the property outright, complete with its own island, St Ninians. The farm and the island are still being passed down the generations.
I much prefer a no vote, but if it is a yes vote, then we'll just get on with it. I mean, what else can we do?
So most of the cattle end up in England, ultimately?
Well, yes, we sell the cattle when they're a year old and they go down to Scotland usually, and they'll be finished there, they'll be fattened there on Scottish farms, and most of them will end up in the processing plants down in England.
How important is it for Scotland to get this decision right, and that would be a no vote as far as you're concerned?
Well, it's a once in a lifetime vote, and if we get it wrong, then it'll be wrong for the rest of the time. Possibly, my heart said, yeah, we should be part of Scotland, independent, but my head said no.
There are just 23,000 Shetlanders in a nation of 5.3 million. The ultimate yay or nay to independence won't be decided here, but in the country's urban centres. Around 4 million people will be eligible to cast a ballot in September. I'm not allowed to vote because I'm no longer a resident. In fact, I've been away so long, I'm even starting to sound like a stranger.
Do you know much about Scotland? I mean,
Well,
do you really
see,
know
that's
much
funny.
Scotland?
That's funny. You're not hearing that I'm Scottish.
No.
Now, my Australian colleagues think I'm sort of equivalent to Billy Connolly in terms of sounding
Scottish.
distinctively Scottish. But I've just done a whole interview with you.
Yeah, no.
And you didn't realise.
No.
When I came here a couple of years ago and asked people about the referendum, many didn't have a strong opinion one way or the other. Now the secession issue is firmly on people's minds, the length and breadth of the country.
A lot of people of my age who fear independence. It worries them being what they would see cast adrift from the mothership. And I don't feel that. I see this as an opportunity, and if they're courageous enough to take the opportunity, then they have the chance of creating a much better society for their grandchildren.
This moment in time for Scotland is absolutely crucial. If we vote yes, we become a completely different country.
In order to progress, we don't have to separate a union that's been 300 years old.
It's about power. Whether we have the latent power
in our hands at the moment and turn it into positive power, where we can construct a society entirely different from the one we've got at the present time.
In all likelihood, Jim Stiller's wish won't come true. Scots he once despaired are 90-minute patriots, the duration of a soccer game. Personally, I'm still swinging between why bother and why not, but I've been struck by the passion of a much-needed debate about the future of my homeland.